this homework. Just a reminder that Tuesday, when we come back from break, not Monday, I'll remind you again on Monday, but Tuesday we're going to have a quiz worth 18 points because there will be 18 derivatives that you have to know the rules for. Okay. Because you can't do these derivatives if you don't know the rules for them. And so it's all about looking for u and then knowing the derivative. And then we didn't do any yesterday of arcsecant or arccosecant, and they're the one that have the absolute value in it. So remember that the derivative of arcsecant of u is u prime over the absolute value of u and the square root of u squared minus 1. Sine and cosine, it's 1 minus u squared. Secant and cosecant, it's u squared minus 1 under the square root. So hopefully maybe like that helps remind you a little bit of this. How to memorize that. So u is what's in here. So u is 2x squared. So not u. U prime is just 4x. So then if you know the formula, we're just going to plug that in there, right? So the derivative would be 4x over the absolute value of 2x squared, and then the square root of, and remember the mistake that people make the most is they square the x, but they forget to square the 2. So you have to square both of these. So that would really become 4x to the 4th. Minus 1. Questions on where I got those things from? So with this absolute value thing, we have to think about simplifying this, or can we simplify this? So a couple things. One, if you can cross something out with the numerator and the denominator, even though one's an absolute value and one's not, you're still allowed to simplify that. Because you can cross out values and it still works. If what you're left with in the absolute value bars, what was that? It seems like it was like in between those two doors, right? Yeah, my door locked like this and then true. Oh. I don't know why it sounded like there was a intruder back there. Lois is like, what's happening? It's okay, Lois. We're all okay. I texted my husband this morning. Did you go out the garage this morning? Because normally he goes out the front door, but then I went to the garage door and like the door to the garage was open, unlocked. And then I got busy and he sent me like 7 texts. No. Oh wait, I did. I had to get something out of the dryer. Why? What's going on? Why aren't you answering me? So he thought like someone killed me in the garage or something. And I was like, sorry, I just got busy with my kid not being able to wear his pants. So. Oh, children, if you only knew my life, you would know why I'm so crazy. You cannot simplify something inside a square root with something outside the square root, but we can simplify this. So I could cross out this x and make this just x. I could divide 2 into 4. So the simplified answer here would be a 2 on top and just an absolute value of x on the bottom. If this was x squared on the bottom, you don't have to put absolute values bars around it because x squared can't be negative. I think it's okay if you leave them, but like multiple choice answers, and I'm guessing like the answers on the online homework, they're going to want you to use absolute value bars where appropriate. So definitely kind of think about that as you do these. But I think this is the good answer there. So I just have a couple more examples, maybe writing a tangent line, some more fraction stuff, and then I'll let you work on it, which I think was only like 11 questions, right? And maybe you did a couple yesterday. That's funny, right? Oh wait, it's still the same thing. Oh, that used to be your book homework, but we don't do book homework anymore. So you do this one. Or at least start it. So you might want to get those derivative rules out. Think about what u is. We should take turns of people doing examples on the board. Would that be fun? I mentioned lately how you guys never talk to me. Makes me really sad. I just someday you're gonna go off to college, you'll be like, man, too bad I never talked to Miss Dixon so much. She was so nice. Now I just have these mean old professors. I don't even understand. I think, let's talk about this one. What's u in the first one, Misty? So that's the same as saying x to the negative 1. So Jared, what would u prime be in the first one?
Negative x to the negative 2.
So as we plug that in, you have to decide if you're going to keep negative exponents or you're going to change back to fractions. Since we have to plug u into the bottom, I'm going to go with fractions. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to go with fractions. So this is separate from this, right? Like it's just subtraction, so we're going to do this derivative and then just subtract this derivative. So when I do the derivative of cotangent, it's negative. I know that song was really silly, but I really never realized that it was all the c functions that were negative until I watched that song. Just saying. It taught me something. So it's negative u prime, so that would be negative, a negative 1 over x squared. Follow me on that? I'll do it. Negative 1 over x squared over 1 plus u squared, so that would be 1 plus 1 over x squared. Is that true? Do you agree with that? Cotangent u is negative u prime over 1 plus u squared. Do you concur? And then this one is just tangent of x, which means that you don't, I mean, you could do u if you want. You could say u equals x, and then u prime just equals 1. And then those are like the first derivatives that we wrote out, where the derivative of this would just be minus 1 over 1 plus x squared. And again, just like we talked about yesterday, we're not going to leave fractions in a fraction. And so the first step in these problems is, do you know the derivative rules? Can you do the derivative? And then the next step, which sometimes is the harder step for people, is the simplifying, the algebra. So what do we do over here? I'll do this part. Plus. Yesterday morning, Parker was playing on the calculator in here, and he's like, Mom, do you know when I take 1 minus -3, it equals 4? And I was like, yes, Parker. He's like, it's like the minus made it into a plus sign. My third grader was teaching himself how to minus a minus is a plus yesterday. It was a big day for us. We should just teach all third graders negative numbers, and maybe they would be better at them, instead of waiting until your 7th graders, or whatever grade you learn negatives. And your brain has already decided that you can't do such things, and it won't let you learn those rules. You know how many kids in Algebra 2 don't know that a number divided by negative, something divided by -1, just changes the sign. They don't know that. True story. I graded some tests last night. Guess what the low score was? Guess, just take a guess. Percentage-wise, on an Algebra 2 test. Lower.
12.
12%.
Woohoo!
Someone got a 12% on my test. Yeah, they left a lot of it blank. So, back to calculus. This is like what we talked about before. So either you can get a common denominator here and like multiply by the reciprocal, or we can multiply the top and the bottom by just x squared here, and that would work too. What do you think? Like make all this one fraction and then like flip it up, multiply by x squared. Like, so we could do this. So if we made this over 1, then we'd have to multiply by x squared, so we'd get x squared plus 1 all over x squared. Or, like we've talked about, since they both now have a common denominator of x squared, when you flip it up, they're just going to cancel. Which this one kind of turns out really cool, because this is going to cancel out. So I'm left with 1 over x squared plus 1 minus 1 over 1 plus x squared. Why did I write those differently? What's that just equal? It's 0. The derivative is 0. Who would have thought? Yay, calculus. You guys are supposed to at least like kind of like that. I don't know that you know that, but people that take calculus are supposed to like it a little bit. Find it a little bit enjoyable. So that when I teach Algebra 2, I have hope for my life. Or when they get to calculus. So if you could just pretend a little bit more. It might make things a little better in my life. I feel like I need to start therapy after calculus. Calculus has always been like my class that likes math and gets me through the day, and you guys are just like not having it. Do this one. You guys are going to defeat me in the world of teaching. When I quit teaching this year, you'll be like, it was us. It was our fault.
It's always about us.
Literally always.
It hasn't. I mean, not for me. I had hope. I had hope for you, Christy. I said yesterday, why are some people even taking calculus? They just seem to hate it every day of their life. You're supposed to like calculus. No one takes calculus unless they want to take calculus. They shouldn't have hatred in their eyes every day, Christy would. You're bringing down my calculus spirits. Christy, didn't you want to be a math teacher at some point in your life, or that was a lie? Isn't that what we read on the NHS thing? I can't wait for Lois to watch this. Have you done with this yet? It's just like the last one, right? It's a negative exponent. Start it. I'll just pause and wait for Lois so she doesn't have to hear me telling you all my secrets.
You didn't even start. You and you kind of just start.
So when you have a fraction with x in the bottom, you're going to have negative exponents. When you take the derivative, it means you're going to have those fractions in a fraction, and you're going to have to simplify it. So negative 2x to the negative 2. So I like working with the fractions better. So just like the last one, I'm going to write this. Did I start recording again? Yeah, thanks. I'm going to write this as 2 over x, and this one as 2 over x squared. Our cotangent is negative u prime, so negative 2 over x squared over 1 plus u squared, which would be 4 over x squared. And again, you're definitely going to have a question on your test where I put the fractions in it to make you do the algebra to simplify it. So you can get the common denominator just like we did in the last one. You also want to do this one the other way just to show you it's the same thing. If you just multiply the top and the bottom by x squared over x squared, this would cancel and you'd get negative 2 on the top. X squared times 1 is x squared, and x squared times 4 over x squared, you get negative 2 over x squared plus 4. So whether you get the common denominator on the bottom and then simplify, or you multiply by the common denominator on the top and the bottom, because that's really just multiplying by 1, like you get the same answer. It's just what makes the most sense to you as you're doing it. That's what I love about math, is there's more than one way to get there. When my husband took college classes, his math teacher would say, there's more than one way to get to Indianapolis. And like on the first day of class, he made everyone go through and say, how do you go to Indianapolis? How do you go to Indianapolis? How do you go to Indianapolis? Which I feel would get very redundant after a while. But everybody took a different way. And because there's more than one right way to get to the answer in math. That's why people hate math. That's why I love math. I'm going to bring Christy back to the dark side of math. And then just like we've done with everything, we can also write tangent lines. So I need to give you an awful one, right? In terms of finding the derivative. So do that part first. Find the derivative at x equals 2. And then we'll talk about what's the awful part. I can guarantee on your AP test, you're going to have to find a tangent line on both multiple choice and the free response. So that's why we do it every single time we learn a new topic. So for this whole semester, after limits, all we do is derivatives. That's all we do. And then next semester, we do integrals. And guess what integrals are? The opposite of derivatives. So it's like going backwards. It's like they give you the derivative, and you go back to the original function. And that's what we do all next semester. And the application part. So like this chapter is like, at the end of this chapter, we'll have all the rules of how to take derivatives. And then next chapter, which is the last chapter we do before the semester's over, we'll talk about what can we do with all these derivatives now that we can take them, and we'll talk about the application of them. That's calculus. That's calc 1. Right there. Sabrina, what's the derivative? But that's the derivative of tangent. This is inverse tangent.
Oh. It's u prime over 1. That was wrong
Yes.
too.
Well, it is, but what's u in this?
X.
So what's u prime?
Plus x squared.
Yes. And if I'm finding the equation of the tangent line, I need the derivative at that point. So then I'm just going to plug in 2 there, and I get 1/5. Yes? What else do I need? It really creeps me out that you call me mom. I just want you to know that. I know you call other people mom, but it's still, it's weird. It's weird for you. I'm just throwing it out there. What else do we need for a tangent line? We have a slope. What else do we need? A y value, because we have the x value. So we have to say inverse tangent of 2. This is where it gets ugly. Is that on my unit circle? 2? Is there someplace where the tangent is 2? Oh, maybe there's someplace where the tangent's 2? No.
No. Secant can be 2. Cosecant can be 2. Which means this would be a calculator problem because you can't do it unless you left it as inverse tangent of 2. So in rating mode, Sabrina, if you type inverse tangent 2, what did you get? Oh, Sabrina.
Well, turn on, like it turns on and flashes and it turns
I
back off.
bet the batteries are dead.
I bet the charger's dead. I had to charge mine yesterday. It was flashing. What did you get, Kyler?
I got 1.107.
1.107. The same way we've written tangent lines for what seems like ever. Yes? No? Maybe so? You have to promise to do homework before kids. You have to. Don't yell out the answer, but think for a minute. Which one of these shall be the answer? In all honesty, inverse trig is not a huge part of the AP test, but definitely a little bit like inverse tangent, inverse sine, those are the ones that have shown up in the past on a question or two. The ones with the absolute value bars I've never seen on the AP exam, doesn't mean that they couldn't be, but I've never seen them on there. So it's just recognizing the pattern there, and is tangent positive or negative derivative? So it's not A or B, right? And then you just have to remember you have to take the derivative of u on top. So the answer is 50. Hooray. That's it, that's all I got. Homework is on Math Excel. There are 11 questions. If you're behind with other homework, you should work really hard to get caught up. Because when we come back next week, we are going to have our test sometime next week. So maybe we'll have our quiz Tuesday or Thursday and test on Friday. Because the quiz will just be a little quick memorization.